Well, if everybody is doing a wonderful job, then why are things changing? Rajdeep, what do you make of this move, and will this really help BJP duck anti-incumbency of 2 decades in this state right now? Because this clearly looks like an attempt to duck anti-incumbency in Gujarat.
Look, the fact is Vijay Rupani was never a strongman leader of Gujarat. He was a leader who had been brought in a sense, as an interim chief minister after Anandiben Patel resigned in 2016. And remember, in 2017, the BJP squeaked home for the first time since 1995. They were not in triple figures in the 182-member Gujarat Assembly. So Vijay Rupani was never really a leader who had any kind of base. He comes from the Jain community, and in the last few years, there's a sense that the Patidars, the dominant Patel community of Gujarat, believes that the chief ministership is something that they must go to a Patel. Remember, the Congress had played strongly the Patidar card. They've got Hardik Patel now as their working president in a way. So the fact is that the BJP recognized that staying with Vijay Rupani into next year's election was subject to the law of diminishing returns. In fact, there was talk for the last 6 months that he would be replaced. Finally, the BJP has taken this call, and if you look at all the names that you've announced, and I am told Praful Khoda Patel is almost the clear front runner now because he's been summoned to Gandhinagar. The belief is that the BJP needs a Patel face. It needs someone who Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah, most importantly Mr. Modi, will implicitly trust. But importantly, someone who belongs to the dominant, assertive political caste of Gujarat. So I think there's an element of caste politics. There's an element that Vijay Rupani at the end of the day was seen as a weak chief minister. There are question marks over administration in Gujarat in the last couple of years, including on COVID management. But net, and you're seeing this in Uttarakhand, you've seen this in Karnataka, and now importantly, you're seeing it in Gujarat. The BJP High Command is ready to make those changes ahead of next year's elections if they feel that the Chief Minister is someone who cannot deliver a particular state. So I think it was more because Vijay Rupani was a leader who could never really be seen as an electoral face in Gujarat. The BJP is still relying on Mr. Modi to deliver a state, and if that could not happen in 2017 in terms of not crossing 3 figures, the BJP doesn't want to take any chances this time. They wanted to arrest anti-incumbency, hence this change. Likely Praful Khoda Patel as the front runner at this moment.
Also, with this move, Rajdeep, it does appear that the Prime Minister is in direct charge of the elections in Gujarat. And I also want to ask you about the largest strategy of the BJP, this ease with which they make these big changes, these big ticket changes in various states. They've done it in Karnataka, they've done it twice in Uttarakhand, they're doing it in Gujarat. It is so difficult for any other party to replicate this sort of a strategy that the BJP has made a norm, isn't it?
Look, the BJP has a clear high command at the moment. Mr. Modi and to some extent Mr. Shah call the shots. Certainly they do, of course, in the context of Gujarat. The only state where the BJP has found it much more difficult to impose its writ is Uttar Pradesh, where Yogi Adityanath, in a sense, when there were question marks over his leadership, there was a pushback. But apart from that, if you look across the country, the BJP under Mr. Modi has tried to ensure that a generational shift is effected in the BJP state leaders at different levels. There's the likes of Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who perhaps is the last, in a way, remnant, if I may call him that, of the Vajpayee-Advani era. But broadly, they are bringing in people who they are associated with. Praful Khoda Patel is someone who importantly was the Minister of State for Home in 2010 when Amit Shah had to vacate the post after the Sohrabuddin Sheikh fake encounter case. So he's someone implicitly trusted. You've seen him in Lakshadweep. He's controversial. His name has come up even in the Mohan Delkar suicide case, the MP of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, but he's trusted. So it's a trusted next generational shift that the BJP is looking at, whoever they're bringing, whether it's C.R. Patil, Mansukh Mandavia, the various other names that you're speaking about, all of these are trusted aides of Mr. Modi Shah. They have a high command. By contrast, as we've seen with the Congress can't remove, for example, in Punjab, Amrinder Singh.
Yes.
So he remains, and then comes Navjot Singh Sidhu as president. That creates some dissonance. The BJP has the leverage, the Modi Shah team has the leverage to impose their leaders. Now, will that work as a strategy? In the long run, it may not. But in the short run, it clearly works because the BJP is in power at the center and they can use that power to impose